The year was 2000. Inside the sterile white walls of a hospital in Lisbon, Portugal, a 15-year-old boy lay staring at the ceiling. The air smelled of antiseptic and uncertainty. For most teenagers, 15 is an age of infinite dreams, an age where the world feels wide and reachable. But for this boy, the world had suddenly become very small. It was the size of a hospital bed. His name was Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro. Just months earlier, he was the rising star of Sporting Lisbon's youth academy, a skinny kid with lightning-fast feet and a hunger that frightened his opponents. But now, his greatest enemy wasn't a defender on the pitch, it was his own heart. Doctors had discovered a condition called tachycardia. His heart would race uncontrollably, even when he was sitting still. It was a ticking bomb. To a normal person, this was a manageable health issue. But to an athlete whose entire life was built on physical explosion, it felt like a death sentence. The doctors sat down with his mother, Dolores. The choice was agonizing. Perform a risky laser surgery to cauterize the area causing the irregular heartbeat, or tell the boy he could never play professional football again. Imagine the weight of that moment. Ronaldo had left his home on the island of Madeira at age 12, crying every night because he missed his family. He had endured poverty. He had endured bullying. He had sacrificed his entire childhood for one single goal, to become the best in the world. And now, before he had even played a single professional game, it was all about to vanish. As they wheeled him into the operating room, the boy wasn't thinking about the risk to his life. He was thinking about the ball. He was thinking about the green grass. He was thinking about the promise he made to his mother that he would lift them out of poverty. The surgery began. A laser was sent deep into his heart to heal the rhythm that had gone wrong. Outside, his mother waited, her hands trembling in prayer. Inside, the boy's destiny was being rewritten by a beam of light. A few hours later, the doctors emerged with a smile. The surgery was a success. But no one, not the doctors, not his mother, not even the boy himself, could have predicted what would happen next. Most people would have taken months to recover. Most would have been afraid to push their heart ever again. But Cristiano Ronaldo was not most people. Within days, he wasn't just walking, he was asking for his boots. He was ready to prove that while his heart may have been broken, his spirit was unbreakable. But how did this boy who came so close to losing it all find the strength to transform from a skinny, sick teenager into a global icon? To understand that, we must go back to where the hunger began, back to the rain-soaked streets of Madeira.
To the world today, Madeira is a lush, green paradise, a jewel in the Atlantic Ocean. But in 1985, for Maria Dolores dos Santos Aveiro, it was a place of daily survival. Dolores was already a mother of 3. Her husband, José Diniz Aveiro, was a gardener and a part-time kit man for a local football club. But Diniz was a man fighting invisible demons. Having returned from a brutal war in Africa, he carried scars that no one could see, scars that he tried to drown in the bottom of a bottle. The family lived in a small tin-roofed shack in one of the poorest neighborhoods of Funchal. Money didn't just run out, it was often never there to begin with. When Dolores discovered she was pregnant for the 4th time, her heart didn't fill with joy, it filled with fear. She wondered how she would feed another mouth. She wondered if the walls of their tiny home could hold any more struggle. In her biography, Dolores admits she almost tried to stop the pregnancy, but as if the universe already knew what this child would become, her attempts failed. On February 5, 1985, a boy was born. They named him Cristiano Ronaldo, the second name chosen after his father's favorite American actor, Ronald Reagan. Cristiano's childhood was not defined by toys or luxury. It was defined by the ball. His playground was the steep asphalt streets where he would play until the sun disappeared. He didn't have expensive boots. Often he played in whatever shoes he could find. But the moment his feet touched the ball, the poverty around him seemed to vanish. He was a skinny boy, but he possessed a fire that was almost frightening. He was nicknamed Abelhinha, the little bee, because he never stopped buzzing across the pitch. But there was another nickname, Crybaby. If he lost a game, he cried. If his teammates didn't pass him the ball, he cried. For most, these were signs of a sensitive child, but for those who looked closer, these were the first sparks of a terrifying ambition. He wasn't crying because he was weak. He was crying because he could not accept anything less than perfection. His father, Diniz, watched him from the sidelines of the Andorinha football club. He was the one who introduced Cristiano to the game, but he was often too lost in his own struggles to see the magnitude of his son's talent. By the age of 10, it was clear Madeira was too small for Cristiano's dreams. To save his family and to escape the cycle of poverty that threatened to swallow him, the crybaby would have to do the unthinkable. He would have to leave his home, his mother, and everything he knew. A ticket was bought. A small bag was packed. At just 12 years old, Cristiano Ronaldo was about to enter a lonely exile that would either break him or make him a king.
Imagine being 12 years old. At 12, most of us are worried about homework or video games, but for Cristiano Ronaldo, 12 was the age of sacrifice. He stood at the airport in Funchal, clutching a small bag. His mother, Dolores, stood across from him, her eyes red from crying. She knew that to give her son a future, she had to let him go. The boy boarded a plane for Lisbon, a city he had only ever seen on a map. He wasn't just moving to a new city, he was moving to a different world. When he arrived at the Sporting Lisbon Academy, the reality of his choice hit him like a physical blow. He was a peasant from a small island in a city of sophisticated strangers. But the hardest part wasn't the distance, it was the silence. In the cafeteria, in the locker rooms, and on the training pitch, Cristiano would speak, and the other boys would burst into laughter. His Madeiran accent was thick and melodic, vastly different from the sharp Lisbon dialect. They mocked him, they imitated him. For the first time in his life, the boy who was a king on the streets of Madeira was a nobody in the halls of Lisbon. Every single night for the first year, Cristiano would hide in his room and cry. He missed the smell of the ocean. He missed his mother's cooking. He felt like an exile, a stranger in his own country. He even called home, begging to return. But something inside him, that same racing heart that had survived poverty, refused to give up. He realized that if he couldn't change how he spoke, he would change how he played. He made a silent vow. One day you won't laugh at me. One day you will only look up to me. While the other boys went to sleep, Cristiano stayed awake. He realized he was too skinny, too weak to compete with the older players. So he started his nocturnal missions. He would sneak out of his room, dodge the security guards, and break into the academy gym. In the dark, lit only by the moon through the windows, he would lift weights. He would tie ankle weights to his feet and dribble through the dark corridors. He wasn't just training his muscles, he was building a wall of steel around his heart.
The crybaby was disappearing. In his place, a relentless machine was being built. He was no longer playing for fun, he was playing for revenge against those who laughed, and for the survival of the family he left behind. But just as the world started to notice this skinny phenomenon from Madeira, fate decided to test him one more time. The very heart that drove him to work harder than anyone else was about to betray him.
Success is often born in the moments where we feel the most vulnerable. For Cristiano Ronaldo, that moment came in the year 2000. He was 15, and his body, the very tool he was using to build a future for his family, was failing him. His heart was racing. Doctors diagnosed him with tachycardia, a condition where the heart beats irregularly fast, even during rest. To any other boy, this would mean a quiet life, but to Cristiano, a quiet life was a life not worth living. He underwent a delicate laser surgery. The doctors cauterized the problematic area of his heart, literally burning away the flaw that threatened his dreams. It was a high-stakes gamble, but the surgery was a success. Most people would have spent months in bed, fearful of every heartbeat, but Cristiano, he was back on the training pitch in just a few days. It was as if the surgery hadn't just fixed his heart, it had supercharged it. He played with a new kind of ferocity. He wasn't just running anymore, he was flying. Fast forward to August 6, 2003, a date that changed the history of football forever. Sporting Lisbon was playing a friendly match against the giants of England, Manchester United. A skinny 18-year-old with blonde highlights in his hair stepped onto the pitch. He was playing against some of the greatest defenders in the world, men like Rio Ferdinand and John O'Shea. But Cristiano didn't see legends, he saw opportunities. Every time he touched the ball, the stadium held its breath. He moved with a speed that seemed almost supernatural. He was dancing around world-class athletes as if they were statues. In the dugout, the legendary Sir Alex Ferguson sat with his jaw dropped. In the dressing room at halftime, the Manchester United players were exhausted. John O'Shea reportedly needed an oxygen tank because he was so dizzy from trying to mark the young Portuguese winger. The players turned to Ferguson and said, "Boss, we cannot leave this stadium without signing that boy." Sir Alex Ferguson agreed. Within days, Cristiano was on a private jet to Manchester. He was handed the iconic number 7 shirt, the shirt worn by legends like George Best and David Beckham. The boy from the tiny island of Madeira had finally arrived on the world stage. He had outrun poverty, he had survived a broken heart, and now he was about to become a king. But just as the world began to chant his name, a tragedy was brewing back home, a tragedy that would test his resolve more than any defender ever could.
Success is often a lonely mountain. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes. By 2005, Cristiano Ronaldo was climbing faster than anyone in the history of the game. He was the star of Manchester United. He was famous. He was wealthy. But back in Portugal, the man who had first given him a football was fading away. In September 2005, while Cristiano was with the Portuguese national team, he received the phone call that every child dreads. His father, José Diniz Aveiro, was dying. Years of struggling with alcohol had finally caused his liver to fail. He was only 52 years old. Sir Alex Ferguson, who had become a second father to Cristiano, told him, "Go. Football is nothing compared to your family." Cristiano rushed to London, but the tragedy was already written.
His father passed away before seeing his son win his first Champions League, before seeing him lift his first Ballon d'Or, and before seeing him become a global legend. This loss didn't just break Cristiano's heart, it reshaped his entire life. Most people in their 20s, especially with millions in the bank, turn to the nightlife to forget their pain. But Cristiano chose a different path, a path of rebellion. He decided to rebel against the very thing that took his father. He made a solemn vow he would never touch a drop of alcohol. He would never let a substance control his body or his mind. His obsession with fitness wasn't just about football anymore. It was about survival. It was about being everything his father couldn't be. This is when the legend of his work ethic was truly born. His teammates at Manchester United would tell stories that sounded like myths. They would arrive at training at 9 a.m. only to find Cristiano already there, drenched in sweat, having been training for 2 hours. They would leave at 3 p.m. and he would still be on the pitch, practicing free kicks in the pouring rain with weights tied to his ankles. He turned his grief into a machine-like discipline. He became obsessed with sleep, with nutrition, and with the science of his own body. He wasn't just training to be a player, he was training to become a masterpiece. Every goal he scored, he would look up at the sky. It was a silent conversation with the ghost of a father who never got to see his son become a king. The crybaby from Madeira had disappeared forever. In his place stood a man with a heart of steel and a mind that refused to accept defeat. But as he reached the pinnacle of the sport, the question remained, was it all just talent, or was there something else inside him, something the world had misunderstood from the very beginning?
Time is the ultimate judge of a man's character. As the years passed, the world watched in awe as the skinny, tearful boy from Madeira literally reshaped himself. The world stopped calling him the kid with the heart condition and began calling him a Greek god. He didn't just win trophies, he redefined what it meant to be an athlete. 5 Champions League titles, 5 Ballon d'Ors, more goals than anyone in the history of the sport. From Manchester to Madrid, from Turin to the global stage, Cristiano Ronaldo became a symbol of what is possible when a human being refuses to accept the word impossible. But look closer at his face during the 90th minute of a game. Look at his eyes when his team is losing. You will still see that same fire that lit up the dark gym in Lisbon 20 years ago. You will still see the boy who cried because he hated to lose. We started this story with a medical condition, a racing heart that threatened to end a career before it began. But perhaps the doctors were only half right. Perhaps Cristiano's heart didn't beat fast because of a flaw. Perhaps it beat fast because it was full of a hunger that a normal body couldn't contain. It was a racing heart for a reason. It was racing to catch a dream. It was racing to outrun poverty. It was racing to prove to the world that it doesn't matter how you start, it only matters how you finish. Cristiano Ronaldo's secret history isn't about football. It's about resilience. It's about the fact that the very thing that tries to break you, whether it's poverty, a health crisis, or the loss of a loved one, can become the engine that drives you to greatness. So the next time you feel like the world is against you, the next time you feel like you are too weak, too poor, or too alone, remember the boy with the racing heart. Remember that your heart is beating for a reason. Don't ask for a life without struggle. Ask for the strength to turn your broken heart into a legendary one.